Okay, welcome everybody. We're super excited to have you here today. My name is Susan. I am part of the college events team at the college, and welcome to AC Market. You have joined the session with myself and with Jaimee, and we are going to talk about literary travels. Jaimee has an amazing company on the side. She is a young entrepreneur, and I've spoken to her, and she just seems so incredible. So Book Bundles by Jaimee. We're going to put the information in the chat, and you can start to follow her. I think it's just an amazing idea and really, really great. So we think about, our summer reading bucket lists, and I've seen the list, and I'm just pumped for her to talk about the books that she's reading, and some of the ones that we can maybe read as well. So before we get started, I'm going to go over just a few housekeeping items. So be sure to tune into our other live virtual events that are happening today. So lots of sessions going on for the whole day for AC Summer Market. So be sure to check that out, and we'll put a little link in the chat again throughout this conversation. We'll put that information in there so that you guys can have access to it. What else do I need to tell you? So there's going to be closed captioning. So at the bottom of your screen, if you want to turn that on, you just press the CC button, and that's available for you. We want these sessions to be open dialogue. So obviously Jaimee's going to go through and talk about the books that she's going to recommend. But throughout, you're obviously welcome to raise your hand, put a question in the chat. And, depending on how the conversation's going, I can call on you right away or ask the question. Or once Jaimee's done, we can have, a Q&A afterward as well and really get a conversation going. We keep saying, we know that we're not in person. But that doesn't mean that we can't have an open dialogue. And, it's so nice to see everyone's faces, and we're not on campus, but, we want to make it very communal and collaborative and have a conversation with everybody. Okay, so I have the pleasure of introducing Jaimee Kettles of Book Bundles by Jaimee. Jaimee started her small business, Book Bundles by Jaimee, because she loves to read. Jaimee has been an avid reader for as long as she can remember, and is encouraging others to read as a passion. Sorry, my screen just went. Here we go. Okay, so Jaimee was working at a thrift store in high school, and that is where she fell in love with used books. And I think it's just a great story. I think that, I think books are underrated. The more and more I talk to people during the lockdown, we're seeing lots of different hobbies, but I don't hear about reading as much as I used to. So I'm excited for this conversation. So she's in her second year at Carleton University, doing a major in English and a minor in psychology and creative writing. So super interesting topics. And obviously, you have a lot of education around this topic. So I'm going to turn it over to Jaimee. She's going to talk a little bit about her favorite books. So I want to welcome Jaimee, and I'm going to pass it over to you.
Hi guys, I just want to start off with saying thanks to everyone for making it out here today. Thank you, Susan, for that lovely introduction. That kind of takes the words right out of my mouth. Just went through everything. But yeah, I'm in my second year right now at Carleton University. And as Susan said, I worked at a thrift store all throughout high school. So I've always been I've been a reader for as long as I can remember, ever since in elementary school when we used to do the readathons and stuff. And I'd curl up in bed with my mom and just read as much as I could. And I found that has really translated into every part of my life. I mean, obviously I'm an English major, my concentration is in creative writing. So reading is not only a part of my personal life, it's part of my academic life too. And I just have found throughout my year or so at university so far, my tastes have really broadened. And so this year, obviously with the pandemic, we've all been stuck at home. There hasn't been too much to do. I recently quit my thrift store job, but because of the 2 years that I worked there, I have boxes and boxes and boxes of used books, right? They're just sitting around. And I've always been super duper passionate about sharing my love with reading with other people. And I hate to lend my books. So I figured what better way to get other people into books than selling really good books that are both cheap. So $5 a book is what I sell them at. Like Susan said, you can check out my Instagram. I'm always open to suggestions, always looking for tailoring the book bundles so it's something for you. So just a quick rundown is I started this business in April because I didn't have a lot to do. I thought it would be something that's super fun. It's really skyrocketed off of that. Anyways, so it's really skyrocketed off of that. I sell mystery book bundles, classics, romance, young adult, pretty much everything you can think of. You can request specific books and I will go out of my way to look for them for you. I love to help people find something that they like. If you're someone who doesn't necessarily know what kind of books you want to get into, I love having conversations with my customers to try to tailor a book list for them that they will love. So without further ado, this is my favorite book list. So what I'm going to start with is a new adult book that I'm sure some of you have probably heard of. It's really popular right now. So it's a romance, fantasy, paranormal mix, and it's by my absolute favorite author. As you can see, I have a whole shelf of her. So it's From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So for anyone who doesn't know what it's about, it's set kind of in this time period, but with medieval factors into it. So there's vampires that take over the world basically, but they're seen as gods. And the main character, Poppy, she is the maiden. And so she meets the main character, Hawk. Don't worry, this isn't any spoilers or anything. This is just a rundown. I'm not going to spoil any of the books for you guys because I want you to read them. But this book, I've been telling all my friends and everyone that this is definitely something that they should look into. I have gotten all of my friends, even the ones that don't read, completely hooked on this series. So as of right now, she's released the first 3. There's 3 more that are coming out. And then she's also released a spin-off series from it. So it's really entertaining. Honestly, all 3 books, I pre-ordered all of them the first day that they've come out. Every single time I just sit in my bed and I have not been able to put it down. I will not talk to my family. I will not go on my phone. It's just one of those books that you're just going to sit there and the only thing you're going to want to do is read it. And honestly, the same goes for all of her other books too. So I have 5 main books I'm going to talk about. So this was the first one, but I have like 1 or 2 other ones that kind of coincide with it. So if it's something that you're interested in, that maybe you have different ones that you can look at. So like I said, I recommend anything by Jennifer L. Armentrout, but so this is another one of her books. This is probably my second favorite series I've read by her. I've read 30 of her books so far, so I'd say I'm pretty well versed in her writing. So this is called Half-Blood. This one is about, it's a Greek mythology thing. So there's Greek gods, there's half-bloods, demigods, everything. There's 5 books in this series. I'm currently almost done the 4th book right now, and there's 2 novellas in it as well. And then there's another 4-book series after. So it'll really take up a lot of your time. This is what I've been doing when I have any free time, you know, when I'm going on a car ride or anything, obviously not when I'm driving, but if I'm in the back seat or in the passenger seat or anything, I've been very, very into this book. Like it is really good. I finished the first 2 books in one day. Like that's how good they are. I just find that her writing it's amazing. Okay, so I'm going to go to my second book now. So the second book I'm going to talk about is also another popular book, but like I said, so this year, probably the past year and a half, my reading tastes have broadened so much. Like I only used to like young adult romances, but now I'm trying to read things that are out of my comfort zone, like things that I wouldn't normally read. So I'm sure most of you have probably heard of the author Mitch Albom. He wrote The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, Tuesdays with Morrie, Have a Little Faith, tons and tons of books. So I recently read Tuesdays with Morrie, which is a memoir about Mitch Albom's actual professor, that he had in the 1970s in Colorado. So throughout this book, Mitch and Morrie just talk about life. They talk about everything from death to relationships to school, anything. So like I said, this doesn't have romance in it. It's not my usual cup of tea. I read it, I cried, I laughed. I wanted to know more. He unfortunately passed away from a rare disease, ALS. I think it was in 2003. But this book, it just details conversations between Mitch and Morrie. And from Mitch Albom's perspective, it shows how he goes from like someone who is a sports and money mogul, and then he finds out that his old professor that he hasn't talked to in 25 years is really sick and he's going to pass away. So he starts to go and see him, talk to him, and they start to reform their connection. And it just completely changed the author's outlook on life. And I don't want to say it completely changed my outlook on life, but when I was reading it, it really made me start to think about the kind of things that are important and reflecting on things. And I find that you always know when it's a good book when you can start reflecting on these kinds of things. So off of that, The Five People You Meet in Heaven, also by Mitch Albom, also deals with death and getting through the hard parts of life. So it's about an amusement park, I forgot the word, an amusement park helper, we'll just say that. Basically the custodian, he helps with the rides. He was 82 and he passes away at a terrible accident. And the story details him in his own version of heaven, meeting 5 people that either he knew or didn't know as well, but they helped shape him who he was and changed his life in ways that he hadn't known. So for example, there's someone that worked at the amusement park, like the old owners that was like 100 years before, but obviously that had to do with his life and his death because he worked there for most of his life. Okay, I'll answer that question just right after this. So anyways, so he meets those 5 people. As someone who's relatively young, I'm only 19, like death isn't something I obviously like to think about. I don't think most people like to think about it, but reading stuff like this just makes me feel so much more open about it. I made my boyfriend read it. He's one of those people that's like really scared of death and the great beyond. I made him read it and he's like, oh wow, this made me feel so much better. So now I'm getting him into reading too. They're really, really quick reads. They're only about 200 pages. So you can sit down. It's basically all in one sitting if you're a fast reader. Okay, before I get into the next book, Sarah said, she knows that I just mentioned I'm pretty open with what I read, but what's the genre you find yourself always going back to? Okay, it always used to be young adult. And it always used to be young adult romances, but I find I always like the book a bit better. I love the romance parts of books. Like that is just my weak point. I love when there's romantic bonds in it. I love when there's a bit of fantasy, paranormal kind of thing. So probably a hybrid between fantasy and romance. And I've been really into new adult genres as well. So probably, you know, anything by Jennifer L. Armentrout fits that bill. I don't know if you guys have heard of Sarah J. Maas. I love all of her books. Those kinds of books are the ones that I find myself most drawn to. They're the ones that I read repeatedly over and over again. Of course, Harry Potter is one of my favorite series. I read that repeatedly. I'm never going to get over those books. Like, they are my favorite. As you can see, I love my Harry Potter. I'm not going to show you guys all of it, but I have a lot of Harry Potter stuff here. Okay, so, and then for my next book, The Great Gatsby. Obviously, we all know The Great Gatsby. Most of us have probably read it, whether for school or just to say we've read it. But I really wanted to include this because this is one of my favorite classic books. When I read it in high school, I instantly fell in love with it. I love the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. I know that there's always a toss-up between if it's good, if it's not, the American Dream. A lot of people find this book really not as impactful just because I know that a lot of people share the opinion that it's just basically about vapid millionaires in the roaring 20s, right? So I don't know. I read this book. I wrote a bunch of papers on it. I reread it again this year, trying to give it a whole new outlook. And I've just found that every time I read it, I try to focus on a different part, like either the American Dream or why Gatsby is the way he is, or how it shaped America, or even just the Western society as it is now, which I know it's not always fun to read something and think about the academic side of it, but I don't know. I really recommend this. I'm telling you, if you look at it with a new light, it's amazing. It really is. I cannot gush about it enough. It's so good. The writing is so good. Honestly, anything by F. Scott Fitzgerald is amazing. Tender as the Night. I'm just gonna do one more book that kind of coincides with that, and then I'm gonna answer some of the questions. So the other book that I kind of find coincides with this is just short stories by Alice Munro. Great Canadian author. I love her work. In my creative writing classes, we really concentrate on her. I've always read bits and pieces about her throughout school, but this year has just really made me want to buy all of her books that I can find and just read through them. There's always something to read between the lines, dig deeper. She does great imagery throughout her books, or sorry, not her books, her short stories. Great imagery. Just, it's amazing. It really is. I cannot gush about her enough either. Older author for sure. Some of the writing maybe not as interesting to some people, but I find that there's always good life lessons for sure. Okay, I will now go through some of these questions. Okay, Sarah asked, have you read his Dark Materials? No, I haven't, but it's on my reading list. Okay, my next one. Palak asked, have you read The Hating Game? No, but that honestly, okay, I have it right here. I'm reading it after my Jennifer L. Armentrout book. I have it, it's ready to go. I've heard only amazing things about it, so I'm really excited to start that one. Which novel do you think has a great impact on you or was revolutionary? I don't know. I feel like I could go on. There are a lot of books that I found have just really impacted me. Like I said, the Mitch Albom ones have really started to put a new outlook on my life. I've also been reading an older book by the Dalai Lama, Practicing Compassion in Everyday Life, which I find has also really helped me. Harry Potter too. I know Harry Potter is such a well-known book and answer, but I find every time I read it, it makes me feel comforted. It makes me feel happy. It makes me feel safe. And there's always lessons to be learned. I love that I can always go back to Hogwarts. Like it's always going to be my home. I love that it has all those lessons about friendship and doing things that you wouldn't normally do. So I'd probably say, yeah, Harry Potter is the book series that has impacted my life the most. I've been reading it again for as long as I can remember. I watch the movies at least 3 times a year. I'm a really big Potterhead, so definitely Harry Potter would probably be the series that has impacted me the most. If I ever read anything by Guy Gabriel Kay? No, I have not read anything by him, but now that you say it, I'm definitely going to put him on my list. I'm always looking for more books to read. I've definitely read Gatsby in high school, later in university, and later in life for my own interest, and I've enjoyed it in different ways throughout. I love to hear that. I really do love to hear that because I find that, like I said, every time I read it, it pertains to something different. Like you can focus on so many different parts and it never gets old. I mean, that's why it's a classic, but if I okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna, yeah, high five. I'm definitely gonna read the Dark Materials one. Hopefully soon. I don't know though. I've got a lot of books to read. I have a shopping problem about them. Okay, so the next book is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon. Okay, I love this book. Okay, I don't usually read historical pieces, but this is kind of historical, fantasy, romance, everything. It has everything. Diana Gabaldon did so much research, and you can tell, like, it is very historically accurate. There's always something new going on. I believe right now there's 8 books that are out, so they're big. They're really big books. So if you want to commit to reading this series, it'll probably take you a good chunk of your summer, like a very good chunk, because all the books are almost 700 pages or so. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's really good. You're gonna fall in love with Jamie Fraser. You're gonna fall in love with all these old Scotsmen. They go from Scotland, they go to the new America before it was actually America. They go to Ireland. They travel basically all around the world. They go to Paris, and I've just found that every single time, not only do I thoroughly enjoy it, I'm learning about the history side of things while I'm watching the show or while I'm reading the book, and it makes me super enamored in it, so much so that I cannot wait to go to Scotland. I'm actually going to do I'm doing a trip in my third year to go to Ireland for like a semester abroad, and I've already started curating my whole Diana Gabaldon Outlander sightseeing thing, the whole thing. Going to see all the Harry Potter stuff, everything. So yeah, if you like historical stuff, or if you like romance, or if you like the fantasy kind of stuff, this book seriously has it all. You could read just the first book and not the rest of them, but trust me, once you read the first book, you're gonna want to keep buying the rest of them. And then this is another super duper popular one that I wasn't sure if I was gonna read, just because I felt like maybe it was a bit overhyped. Bridgerton. I read it, could not put it down. I seriously cannot stress that enough. It was really good, way better than the TV show. Probably not one of my favorite books, but the romance side of it is really fun. And if you don't have to read all of them either. There's 8 of them. There's a bunch of spin-offs. They're all about the different siblings. So there's 8 siblings in the Bridgerton family. So it's all about the different siblings. But yeah, there's a lot of romance in it. It's a historical romance. It's set in England in the 1813, I believe. And if you're not sure if it's something you would like, I'd recommend maybe watching the first episode of the show, because they are pretty similar. The show's on Netflix. It was really good if you guys like that kind of stuff. Bridgerton and Outlander for sure are my favorite. The men in this, you're gonna love them. You're gonna laugh at the family. It's just, I was literally laughing out loud at some points. Like my sister would come downstairs and she's like, "Who are you talking to? Like, why are you laughing?" And I'm just sitting in bed giggling over this book. Like, it's a common occurrence at my house, but it's okay. Yeah, Bridgerton does give me Pride and Prejudice vibes as well. It's very, very good. So, okay. Again, just to reiterate that these last 2 books, are 2 books that are just, let's say these are the books I read, like they're all the way over here. They are not something I would normally sit down and read and enjoy, but they were on my book list for one of my English courses this past year. So the first one is Annihilation by Jeff Vanderm. It is an ecological fiction. Again, it has some really bad reviews, some really good reviews. I would just suggest going into it with a completely open mind, because it's amazing. It'll probably knock your socks off. It is really, really good. So there's this area called Area X. No one knows where it came from, and it's just slowly taking up land everywhere. Yeah, like Sarah said, skip the second and third one. They're not as enamoring as the first one. I pretty much exclusively like the first one. But what's really cool about it is it gives you the perspective where it's like, I find that as humans, we tend to focus on ourselves more and not enough on nature. So what Jeff Vanderm really sets out to do is use the genre of the new weird and weird fiction and really get you thinking, okay, these things happen too. Like plants have lives, and there's cyclones. Sorry, not cyclones. There's clones. There's the whole thing. It's very sci-fi, very ecological. The people turn into plants and stuff throughout their time there when they send the expeditions there to check it out. There's no other humans there. Every expedition has come back with cancer, or they haven't come back, and they all committed suicide there. It's kind of a mystery too. I don't know if I can say that, because technically it's not that, but it's kind of mystery as well. And it's really, it's amazing. It really is. Again, super short read. The first few chapters, you kind of just have to get yourself into the mindset of, okay, I'm going to read it. And okay, my last book I'm talking about, this book, honestly, to go back to one of the older questions, this book probably had a lot to do with my outlook on life as well. Okay, it's Kindred by Octavia Butler. It's historical, it's fantasy, it's a really, really, really moving piece. It really is. So it's set in the 1970s in California, and it's about an interracial couple. And randomly, Dana, the main woman, gets sent back in time to the 1700s on a slave farm. And obviously, as a Black woman, she's treated as a slave. They don't give her any respect. And it's actually her ancestors that she goes back there. And then she goes back to California and she keeps going back for longer time. I will say, if you're looking for an answer to why for this book, you're not going to get it. But that's kind of the best part about it, is you can draw your own conclusions. You can make up why she went there, what she was doing there. But again, a very, very moving piece. It definitely, it just showed me a whole different perspective on things. And it just makes you think that, yeah, it was really bad back in those times. But then you flip back to the 1970s, and in comparison, that is really not that long ago, and things were still bad. And obviously today things are still bad for racial problems and stuff, but it just really opened my eyes more as to what's going on and the history of it. So I really recommend it. It's very eye-opening. And that is all my books that I'm going to talk about today. I hope you guys found at least one that you're wanting to check out or maybe reread. And thank you so much for listening.
Perfect. I love it, Jaimee.
Thank you. I'm not sure if there's any more questions.
No, you did such a good job. I was like, you're just such a natural. So I'm going to open it up to everybody. If someone wants to ask a question, then obviously you can put it in the chat. You can raise your hand, and I can let you speak so that you can ask it to everybody. But I loved the conversation that was taking place while Jaimee was talking. So I thought I would just throw this out there, and everyone can put their answer in the chat. I think obviously everyone that's on this call is into reading and has some really good recommendations, and that's what we're all looking for. So one of the questions that Jaimee was asked was, what's one of the books that impacted you the most? If everyone wants to go ahead and put the answer in the chat, and maybe we can drive some conversation from there, I think that would be awesome. So I'm just going to open up my chat because I don't have it open. Life of Pi, Sarah, great answer.
Amazing book.
And I said, I'm trying to write all these down as we go because it's summertime, and I don't know about everyone else, but I definitely read more over the summer. We tend to be, if we're lucky enough, we're maybe by the water or at a cottage or just like some downtime. I think especially now with, we work remotely, we're always on our laptops, on Zoom calls and on email. And so just like to remove yourself from a screen, I find is like, I like crave that now. So yeah, looking for great reads for over the summertime. Okay, what else do we have in here? Pride and Prejudice. I loved what everyone was saying earlier as well, just about Gatsby. It's been years since I read that one, and I now I'm excited, like I want to read it again. I'm reading one by John Mars right now. I'm thinking of reading Ending Things, very intense. Jaimee, have you heard of that one by Ian Reid?
Yes, I have. That's on my list too.
I
have a lot of these. I have my book list, and my to be read pile is like over 300 books right now. It's really bad.
That's nuts. The Push, American Dirt. I've read American Dirt. I did love that one. Crime and Punishment. Oh man. Book Thief. Yeah, these are great. Oh, The Kite Runner. So good. Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone. Okay, so I want to make sure if people have specific questions for Jaimee, please go ahead. You can put it in the chat. Or again, you can raise your hand. Okay, so Jaimee, I'm going to take advantage of having you here. Okay, so I'm definitely into, especially over the summertime, just like really great like beachy reads, especially recently because we've been like stuck and we can't travel anywhere. I've definitely been into, I want to say literary travel, but it's probably like not, it's like, it's more like fiction and just like fun and like, people traveling around. The last one I read was What You Were Doing While I Was Breeding. I'm not gonna remember the author's Kristen someone. Any recommendations in that realm?
So I haven't read them yet, but most of my best friends are really avid readers too. So again, these books are on my list. I completely am blanking who it's about. I believe it's called Malibu Rising. So this author has 3 books out right now. The first one's set in the 60s, the next one the 70s, the next one the 80s. They're mysteries. There's some romance in them. I don't know, I've heard really great things. People cannot put them down. It's something very different than what I would usually read as well, but really good. And branching off that, I don't know if you've heard of The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelis. Amazing. I would recommend this. This was my beach read 2 weeks ago. I just laid on the sand and I could not stop reading it. It is so enthralling. It's a mystery, and it was his first book, and it's so well done. It's a great beach read. It really is.
Okay, awesome. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm just looking to see if we've gotten any more. 1,000 Splendid Suns, White Tiger. Amazing. Okay, so please take advantage. If anyone has a question, raise your hand or put it in the chat. If not, what do we have? The Haunting of the Hill House. That sounds terrifying.
The Haunting of Hill House is amazing. The second season of the show on Netflix, The Haunting of Bly Manor, is based on The Turn of the Screw.
Oh.
Something I didn't think I would like. Ended up writing almost all of my papers on it for one of my classes. It's really good. Yeah, if you like horror fiction, it's amazing. It's very well done. It's super short, super easy read, but I've read it a bunch of times and it's really well done.
Okay. Sarah Powell, I feel like you are an extremely avid reader. Kudos to you.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's so important to find. I really do think like it's so important to find time. And I laugh sometimes. I am chatting with my friends, and people are really into like Audible and like listening, you know, like, and I do the same. Like I'll go for walks and listen to a podcast or listen to an audiobook. But I find like it really is like it's so important to read the words. It helps with, you know, spelling and you know, just to increase our vocabulary. And so yeah, I think like I wish it's not that I wish I had more time to read. It's like I should prioritize, like, you know, you just have to make the time, because I really do enjoy it. And there's like, you know, I'm sure this is arguable, but there's like few things that are just that great if you enjoy reading, like just sitting down and really like getting into a book and immersing yourself. And it just gets your imagination going, and yeah, stimulates like parts of your brain that I think don't always get that anymore. So yeah, I think
there's really no other feeling like reading. There isn't one. I'm one of those people too. I don't really like to listen to the book. I like to look at the words, and that's why my doctor says I need glasses and why I can't see properly anymore, because I'm always having my nose in a book. But it's worth it. It definitely, it pays off. And even just reading for 20 to 30 minutes a day, if you don't do that, I would highly recommend it. It stimulates your brain. It helps with anxiety, depression, every other kind of thing. Like it's a great tool to have in your arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything you're saying. Okay, we got lots coming in here. I'm just going to take a look. What about LeVar Burton Reads podcast, the only audio short stories I can get into right now. I love him. Okay, so we'll have to check that one out. People We Meet on Vacation. So that sounds up my alley, by Emily Henry. Oh my God, I think actually someone just gave me that book. Rosetta, thank you very much. I will get onto that one. And Midnight Library. Awesome. Okay, thanks everyone for joining in that conversation. It makes me so happy when, you know, like-minded people get together and we get to talk about something that we all love. Okay, so I'm gonna say, if there's no more questions, and Jaimee, not to put you on the spot, any last minute insights for our reading list for the summer of 2021?
Let me look on my shelf. Let me see if I have any other. I already said The Silent Patient. Honestly, I can't stress it enough. Read something by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Try it. She writes books about aliens, demigods, what else? Demons, Nephilim, vampire. She writes everything. If you like fantasy or anything like that, just please read one of her books. She even writes adult romance books. She writes some mystery books. Like, she's everywhere. And if you get into her, I promise you, you're going to be buying all of her books and you're going to be scouring everywhere for them.
Awesome.
Everywhere.
Yeah, I am going to ask you one more question. So,
Okay.
You know, we put your contact information in the chat so people can reach out to you, you know, if they maybe want recommendations and want to buy book bundles. I think that's brilliant. Let's say, someone's maybe just getting into reading and not sure like where to start, or maybe like walks into a bookstore and just like, okay, obviously this is overwhelming. I sometimes, when I go into a certain bookstore and they have like the author's picks, so like, I start to be familiar, with like, okay, well, I know that I like Heather's picks. So I'll stick with that. But like, any recommendations for, like where do you source like what books I'm going to read? Is it just word of mouth? Or do you have like a site that you use?
Like how I pick my books?
Yeah.
I don't know. I am just a big part of like book communities. Like I said, all my friends read too. So it's basically like I'll see a book. One of my best friends actually works at Chapters too. So it makes it a bit easier. So they always get the pre-books, and she's always telling me this, and that. So I'm constantly adding books maybe that I see online or I see out and about, or like even Shoppers Drug Mart has like that mini book section. And sometimes I'll take a picture of one of them and put it on my list or something. Like I find if you're always looking, like you always kind of have it in the back of your mind when you're out, you can find them everywhere, and you just keep adding them to your list. And on if you guys have the Goodreads app, you can sort them by genre and stuff. So you're really picking something that pertains to you, or you can just look up on Goodreads classics, just anything really. But I find a lot of it, it's word of mouth. Okay. I love the popular word of mouth books. That's what basically my whole list is about, is everything everyone says. I have to add it to my list and read it eventually.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, awesome. Okay, so with that, we are reaching the end of our session here. So I'm just going to give a few more pieces of information. Okay, so first, a huge thank you to Jaimee. And so remember, everybody, it's books or book bundles by Jaimee. So definitely check it out. So like, just a huge thank you. Lots of information in there, so many great ideas. Definitely added a couple books to my list. So I'm really happy that you were here today, and we thank you so much. So for everyone that's joined, thank you as well. I want to remind everybody that today is AC Market. It's a beautiful day outside. So maybe at your next session, take your laptop or your phone outside and join on. But still lots of sessions throughout the day, something for everybody. We'll post that link in the chat so that you can see where that information is, but be sure to join on for more. I think just, as a college community, a day to take a step back and, get engaged with our college community and get involved with something that you like, and maybe just take your mind off of work a little bit. We say that the summertime, our campus is a little bit slower, but, I know for a lot of people, it just keeps going. So we really want to encourage you just today to take a minute, do something that you enjoy, and really jump on one of the calls, engage with the college community, and have a good time. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining this first session of Summer Market. I want to say thank you to Jaimee, and hopefully we will see everybody in the later sessions for the next round. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.